I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't text and drive or be using the cell phone and drive. You already know what can happen because you read about it in the newspaper. In fact, yesterday near Minneaplis, which is about an hour from me, a woman was doing 63 miles an hour in a 55 zone, playing with her phone, ran into and killed a jogger. So it happens. Well, if it happens to you and you manage to kill yourself, that's where I come in. You see, I've worked in the funeral industry part-time for about 40 years, so I see quite a bit of this stuff. We'll get the phone call from the hospital saying that your body is in their morgue and we need to come and pick it up. We'll go down there and you'll be laying on a steel table, all cold because it's a refrigerated room, and there'll be several other bodies next to you. We'll pull you off that table and put you on our gurney, zip the cover closed, and haul you off to the funeral home. Meanwhile, an associate at the funeral home is talking with your family and setting up a time for them to come in and make your funeral arrangements. When we get you to the funeral home, we'll unzip the body bag, pull you out, and we'll put you on our own stainless steel table that we use for embalming. Now bear in mind, you're going to be stark naked. Your arms are going to be extended out, your legs will be apart, because when you die, you defecate, in other words, you poop. And you pee, so we have to clean that out. So if you're bashful about your body, it's too late. We will see it. Now we'll start the embalming. We'll clean you up. We'll close your eyes with a little contact lens looking button called an eye cap. It's got little hooks on it to keep your eyelids closed. And then we'll drive a rivet in your upper jawbone and in your lower jawbone. These rivets have wires on them that are twisted together to pull your mouth shut. You see, it's not like in the movies. You don't die with your eyes closed and your mouth closed. And you look purple. So once we get what we call your features posed, in other words, your mouth closed, your lips positioned, your eyes closed, we'll make about a 4-inch incision in your neck, and we'll raise up the jugular vein and carotid artery, and we'll snip those so that we can put what's called a cannula in your in your carotid artery. That's where the embalming fluids will be pumped in. About 2.5 gallons of the formaldehyde-based fluid that's pinkish in color will go in through your artery, and your blood will come out your veins, and we'll just go down the table and past you and into what's called a flush-away. Looks like an oversized toilet. We flush it, and that gets rid of your bodily fluids. We'll massage your hands, probably move your arms back and forth to get good penetration with the fluids. We got to get your tissues firmed up so that they don't start to decompose. And that purplish look will slowly disappear, and you'll have kind of a healthy pink glow because of the fluids. Once that's done, we'll pull the cannula out, shut off the pump, and we'll take a spear that's hollow called a trocar, and it's attached to a suction pump, and we'll plunge that into your abdomen. We'll break up all your internal organs, pump out all the bowel contents, the bladder contents, your stomach contents, and make sure those organs are broken up good. And then we'll put in cavity fluid, and what that does is turn your internal organs almost to stone. That way they don't start to decompose and stink before we get you buried. We'll wash your hair, we'll close up the incision in your neck, we'll tie your hands together so they look kind of natural in the casket, and then we'll put a sheet over you. And you'll sit there or lay there rather, for a couple of days while we work with your family. Your family will come in, we'll sit down with them, we'll talk a little about your life and how you want to be presented or how they want you to be remembered for the obituary in the newspaper, and also for the prayer handouts for your funeral service. And then the real blast to them is we'll take them to the casket room where they can pick out your casket. That's not a fun time for any family member. I can't imagine picking out a casket for my son or daughter. That would be too much for me. But they have to do it. Your body has to be put into something. They'll also pick out a vault, and the casket will go in the vault, which goes in the ground. The vault protects the cemetery ground from caving in and also protects your casket from groundwater and other elements. Once we get the funeral arranged, the minister lined up, if they're going to have it at the funeral home or at a church, we have to arrange transportation. We have to arrange pallbearers for you. And then we'll go back to working on your body. Hopefully your face doesn't have glass embedded in it, but if it does, we have to pull that out, cover the holes with wax. We apply makeup to make you look as natural as possible. You never look like you did when you were alive. And we'll fix your hair so that it looks nice and dress you. Once we get you dressed, we'll place you in your casket, and you'll go into the chapel or a visitation room so that your family can come in for the public visitation and see you. This is where your friends will come in, your other relatives. It won't be a pleasant time for anybody. They'll come up and they'll view your body in the casket, and they'll wonder why this had to happen. They will be truly grief-stricken. Of course, you won't know this. You'll be dead, so you'll have no idea of what's going on. We get to the day of the funeral. If it's a church funeral, we'll close your casket and take you to the funeral. That'll be the last time anybody will ever see your body, is before we close it to go to church. Otherwise, if it's the funeral home that has the service, your family will come up about 5 minutes before the funeral starts and see you for the very last time. Then we will close and seal your casket. You will never be seen again. After the funeral, we'll take you to the cemetery, and your casket will be placed on what's called a lowering device. And this lowers the casket into the vault, which is in turn lowered into the ground. But that's not done until your family leaves. So you're all alone when you're buried, except for me and the vault person who delivered the vault. We're the last to be there to bury you. The dirt will be placed on top of your casket, or your vault rather. The grave will be closed, and that's it. It's all done. Your family's going to grieve for many, many years. But keep in mind, your friends and distant relatives, they're going to go on with their life. They'll think about you occasionally and how tragic it was that you died, all because of a cell phone. But you put them in that position, and you put your family in the position to feel such a super sense of loss. Now, if you think I'm joking, trust me, I'm not. I've buried a lot of people who have died over the use of cell phones. So, if being embalmed and having a trocar into your abdomen and your internal organs all broken up and then being placed in the ground for eternity appeals to you, keep on driving and texting. Sooner or later, you'll run into me.